We certainly enjoy our water garden here at our studio. The sound that the water makes as it spills over the rocks into the pool is very relaxing. I really like the look of the native rock around the edge, and to complete the look, the plants that we have in the pots in our water garden really add so much. A lot of people enjoy the water lilies that we have in this garden with those flat leaves that lie on the surface of the water and those water lily flowers that are produced in abundance throughout the year. Well, this year we've decided to create another theme garden featuring a water garden plant similar to the lily. We've created a lotus garden, and you can see that the lotuses are quite a bit different than the water lilies. Instead of their leaves floating on the surface of the water, they elongate and rise up high up out of the water. These are the sacred lotus, sometimes referred to as the ancient lotus. And there are some varieties that can obtain heights of 7 feet. Now there are several other varieties that only get to be about 2 feet tall. The flowers of the sacred lotus are truly spectacular. And some of the different hybrids can have blooms that are up to 12 inches in diameter. They have a sweet fragrance, and they're produced in the hottest part of the summer. Now, the lotus are native to India, Asia, northern Australia, and they've been planted extensively in Egypt. The sacred lotus is a plant that has flowers that range in colors from reds to pinks to whites and sort of a creamy yellow, and different variations and combinations of those colors. Now the flowers only last for about 3 days, but as you can see, there are plenty of flower buds that are coming along, so we're going to have lots of color here for quite a while. Now once the flowers or the petals drop after 3 days, that's not the end of the display that the lotus gives you. After the petals are gone, the seed pods then begin to develop. And you can see it sort of looks like a shower head, or some folks may say a microphone or something like that. But these will get a little bit larger, they'll turn brown, and these are prized by florists and anyone else who likes to create dried arrangements. Almost every part of the lotus plant is edible. The rhizomes are edible, the leaves are edible, and the seeds that are produced inside these seed pods in some areas are considered a delicacy. Another interesting thing about lotus seed is that they're extremely long-lived. There are instances of lotus seed germinating after being buried in mud for centuries. The flowers of the lotus plant are truly beautiful, but one thing I think is really spectacular and fascinating is the texture of the lotus leaves. They are extremely water repellent. I'll demonstrate. Just get a little bit of water on my hand here. You see when you drop it on the lotus leaf, it just sort of either rolls off or it beads up in the center. Whenever we have a light rain shower or a night with a heavy dew, it's not uncommon to come out in the morning and see a glistening bead of water in the center of the lotus leaf. Now this has significance in some cultures. This is known as the jewel in the heart of the lotus, and it symbolizes the birth of Buddha. Well, the reason the water beads up or easily glances off, leaving the leaf dry, is due to the surface texture of the leaf. Now you can't see it with your eye, but through an electron microscope, you'd be able to see that there are millions of little bumps on the surface of the leaf. These are epicuticular wax crystalloids. It's sort of like a little micro sculpturing of the surface of the leaf. All plants have a coat of wax or a waxy cuticle in their epidermis. The lotus just has more of it. So you couple that with those little tiny bumps, and it makes for a surface that is very hydrophobic or very water repellent. You can see that the leaf pretty much stays dry as that water dances around there. Back in 1997, a German botanist discovered the secret of the lotus leaf, and he named the effect of the water beating up, the lotus effect. And since then, scientists have been trying to duplicate the surface texture of a lotus leaf to use it in other technological adaptations, like maybe to create a raincoat with this material, or maybe the hull of a ship, or even as a coating on the wings of planes so they would stay dry and not ice up in freezing weather. Well, just last year, a group of scientists from Turkey actually discovered how to duplicate the lotus leaf surface using polypropylene in a unique treated method. So I think it's exciting to see what sorts of technology and science will come about due to the surface leaf of the lotus. Well, another reason that the plant has this adaptation on the surface of the leaf, other than staying dry, it also helps the plant stay clean. Any little particle that falls on the leaf of a lotus will be trapped in those little beads of water, and once the wind blows, it just falls off and the leaf stays really clean. In fact, that's why the lotus is known as a symbol of purity, because it has this self-cleaning property. Now, any little fungal spore or bacterial particle that falls on the leaf will also be trapped by those beads of water and fall away. And I'll demonstrate with a little pinch of sawdust here. Just put some sawdust on here and we'll pretend those are bacteria spores. And then we'll get a little droplet of water, and you can see that those particles of sawdust cling to the water a lot stronger than they cling to the leaf. You can see it's all caught up in the beads of water. So then the wind blows and the water falls off and the leaf is totally clean. Other plants that have a similar leaf surface include some of our cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli, and also some of our elephant ears. We built our lotus garden in sort of a simple way. Laura and Charlie and some of the other gardeners out here made this rectangular design out of 2 layers of railroad ties. They leveled those up, drilled holes through them, and put some rebar to hold them in place. They then put out the water garden liner, wrapped it over the sides, and then attached these cedar boards to make it more decorative and to hold the water garden liner in place. The depth of soil inside the lotus garden here is only about 6 to 8 inches deep, and it's regular field soil. It doesn't have to have any organic matter. When we planted our lotus plants, we had to put little rocks over the rhizomes to keep those from floating up to the top. Lotus plants are also heavy feeders, so once a month we fertilize them with some water garden or water lily type fertilizer, lily tabs, or we just take these tree stakes and break those up and insert that down in the soil beside that rhizome. Lotus plants need to be growing in still water, only about 2 to 4 inches deep, and also they can handle water up to 18 inches deep. So you could build a lotus garden like this, or maybe grow them in a regular water garden and put them in a shallow, long container like just this plastic container. And that way those rhizomes will have a little bit of room to stretch out. Lotus plants are hardy. They're hardy to zone 4, so we will keep this bed for several years. If you're ever in Stillwater, come by and see our lotus garden. And be sure and join us next week at this time on this channel for next week's edition of Oklahoma Gardening.